The Unwanted, Chapter 11. "Can I come in?" Lum asked, standing at the doorway. I stepped back. He walked in, turning around with curiosity to examine the disheveled garden behind him and the debris that littered the living room. A look of disbelief showed on his face. "Dear God, what happened to this place?" he asked. But then the answer came to him. "They really wrecked the house, didn't they? Where's your—" He stopped in the middle of the sentence as he caught a glimpse of my mother from across the room. A hint of shame washed his dirty face with crimson. He stammered, "Hi there, how are you?" My mother stared at Lum through her narrowing lashes. Silently, she folded her arms in front of her chest and leaned back against the wall, unmoved by his discomfort. He scratched his head with embarrassment. "Thought you would never see me again, didn't you? Well, what can I say? I didn't get away. As a matter of fact, you probably will be very happy to learn about my mishaps, one right after another since the day I left all of you behind." He chuckled. What a horrible nightmare. Twice at the airport, I almost got killed, but thank heaven I didn't. Sometimes I wonder how a like me could get so lucky. Anyway, I came here today for a reason. I was just wondering to myself if you would find it in your heart to take me back. Maybe in some way. I was hoping you would be needing me. My mother's silence was deafening. Lum's voice trailed off dejectedly. "Or maybe not. Get out," my mother said. Her voice was calm, but the hatred was clear in her face. "Look," Lum pleaded, "I know you are mad, and I don't blame you, but please try not to brush me away without listening to me first. In the last month, I have been to hell and back many times over. I don't think I can take much more, not from you or anyone else. But believe me, madam, when I tell you this, I've learned my lesson the hard way, and whatever wrongdoings I did to you, I've been paid back plus interest. I was robbed, I was beaten, and those sons of the backward commie jailed me for 2 weeks because I was sleeping in the park. Except for them, I don't think anybody else cares whether I live or die. And to top it all off, I spent all of my money and sold my identification and my passport. I haven't eaten in the last 3 days, and I am very tired. Please let me stay here, at least just for a couple of days." There was more silence from my mother, and Lum continued. "If you're really going to kick me out, at least feed me something and let me take a shower first. Please?" My mother did not have time to answer. From outside, we heard the loud noise of trucks, indicating the arrival of Mr. Tren and the policeman. Through the windows, we watched them park their vehicles carelessly on the sidewalk and hurry towards the house on the long and dirty path through the garden. As soon as he saw my mother standing inside, Mr. Tren smiled broadly. His hair was dripping wet and neatly combed to the back of his head like a ducktail, and he was carrying a black nylon backpack across his right shoulder, the Viet Cong style. He gestured for his men to keep up with him as he neared the house. My mother turned to Lum. "You want to stay here, Lum? Here's a news flash for you. I am no longer the person who could make such a decision. You will need to ask him first." "Him? Who?" Lum looked confused. "See for yourself," she shrugged. Lum eyed the newcomers with puzzlement. "What is going on?" he asked. "Why are the police at your house? What have you done to this place, Kuhan?" My mother greeted Mr. Tren as soon as his feet touched the edge of the marble floor. "Good morning, Mr. Tren. You are right on time. We just finished packing everything. Do you remember Lum?" Turning to Lum, she continued, "And you, Lum, I don't think you need a proper introduction to Mr. Tren here, but there is something I think you deserve to know. As of today, Mr. Tren, our community leader, is the new owner of this house. So if I were you, I would be careful in paying my respects to him." Lum raised his eyebrows as if he wanted to ask more questions, but nothing came. Finally, noticing Lum, Mr. Tren broke out laughing. He walked over to take hold of Lum's right hand and shook it. "Oh, don't look so shocked," he said. "I haven't changed that much. Or maybe I have, judging from the look on your face. But you too have changed. Good heavens, I almost didn't recognize you. Well, what can I say? He shrugged, then turned serious. You have good eyesight. You can see that I am still the same old gardener who watered your orchids and slept behind your kitchen door. The difference is that now I am the new owner. Just like the old proverb said, the rivers have their own segments, men have their own moments. I guess now is my moment. Taking a deep breath, he continued. Come on, you two. Don't look so gloomy. Are you still with her? Pointing to my mother, he winked at Lum. Now that she is no longer the mighty Madam Wynne, the smoke-spitting, fire-puffing banker? Lum struggled for composure. However, Mr. Trent paid no more attention to him. Turning to my mother, he reached inside his backpack to pull out a stack of paper. As for you, Kuhan, I took the liberty of withdrawing the deed to your house from the Department of Real Estate. And I want you to know it was not by any means an easy task, just like looking for a pin in an ocean bed. Anyhow, I found it, and there are a few places that I need you to sign and fingerprint, which we can do now. The rest of the legal nonsense I can take care of later. Come on over here by my side so that I can show you. My mother walked closer to him. I'll sign anything you want, but what about my family's proof of registration? I would like to have that before we leave here. He nodded. Sure, I understand your worry. Nobody is legal until I say so. But fear no more. I got all the papers right here. We'll go through everything by the end of this morning. He pulled out a thick blue folder. On the top page, the words were typed in bold black letters. Proof of existence. Community number 4, Unit 125,091. Head of Unit, Win. Kuhan T. This number, 125,091, he explained to my mother as his thick finger ran across the cover page, is your family's number. We don't like to use the word family. It's too personal, too alienated from the whole. We refer to each family as a unit, like in biology, the single cells that make up the body. A word of advice. You should guard this paper with your life. For the time being, this is your identification. You'll have to carry it with you wherever you go until our leaders come up with a better system. All of your names will be contained in here, so you need to stay together at all times. When you check into your new community, do not take anyone else in or allow anyone to leave your unit. Every day after 6 p.m., curfew time, everybody will have to stay inside because several nights a week, your house will be searched without any warning. That is the law. When it happens, the police will ask to see this paper and count heads. If they find anyone that does not belong, the head of the unit and the extra person will be taken away to death camp. Did you get all that? All right. Now I need you to read your new address slowly to me. As my mother spelled out the new address to Mr. Tren, Luan and the rest of my family walked into the room watching the scene in silence. How many people in your unit? Mr. Tren asked my mother. Sir, am I counting my prenatal baby as one individual? He raised his eyebrows. Don't be stupid. How many people are there in your unit counting seniors, adults, and children? Forget your belly. You will register that baby at the hospital when it is time. 6 people. 2 seniors, 2 female adults, and 2 male children, my mother answered. From the corner where he had stood forgotten, Lum spoke up abruptly. 7, including 1 male adult. Don't forget me. Mr. Tren threw a threatening look at Lum, then barked at him. Do I look like I am talking to you? Lum turned bright red, yet said nothing. Mr. Tren continued. The head of this household didn't mention anything to me about any adult male, so I assume you are taking the liberty of adding yourself into her unit. Is that true? Lum forced a smile. Sir, you know I have been living here for more than half a decade. I am as much a part of this family as anyone else except you in this room. Are you married to her? No, but I'm the father of the child in her womb. It was my mother's turn to blush when Mr. Tren turned to face her. Listen, Kuhan. he said. I can't argue with paid boy here, so I'll let it be up to you. What's it going to be, 6 or 7? There are 6 members in my unit, my mother answered firmly. She wanted to say something else, but Mr. Tren waved his calloused finger to quiet her. His eyebrows remained knitted together in thought. Hold on a second, he said. This halfwit may have a point here. There are no males in this unit except for your old father, who may end up in a concentration camp for his past crimes. Even if the government spared him due to his disability, you would not have enough workforce for this unit. If I add the gigolo to your group, it will increase your family's strength to almost double. A good idea, don't you think? Oh well, even if you don't agree with me, someday soon you'll thank me. And that was his decision. Without giving my mother a chance to object, he jotted down in my family's file the 7 names. Soon after my mother signed over the deed of her house, Mr. Tren handed her the folder. Putting the rest of his papers into his backpack, he shifted his attention to Luan. Like a farmer examining a young cow, he gave her a long look of contemplation. When he spoke, there was no hatred in his voice. Luan, he said, you are 18 years old now, correct? Yes, sir, Luan answered. Good, good. Here's a pamphlet I want you to read. It is about a group called the Young Volunteers, a party of young people like you. I recommend you take a look at it. You can read more about it, and at some point if you decide to join, or even if you just want more information, look for your new community leader or me. Either one of us will be happy to assist you with any questions that you might have. The truth is, I've watched you grow up in this house, and I think you've turned into a very smart young lady. With a new change in this country, you can really go far, because it's time for poor folks like us to take charge of our destinies. Promise me that you will read the brochure and do something for yourself and for your country, instead of hanging around here with this sinking ship. There is no law that condemns you to die with these capitalists you once worked for. The days that these people could take advantage of you are over. You understand? As he stuffed the pamphlet in her hand. On the way out, past my mother, he whistled a fast, catchy tune and bobbed his shining head up and down to the music. In the next room, policemen started to carry our belongings outside. Less than an hour later, we were settled inside the truck, and it drove away. I sat back in my seat and stared out the window to take one last look at the place. Through the broken wall and the fallen vines, the house stood empty and ruined under the bright sun. In my mind, the snapshots of memory paraded as in a dream. I saw myself running from room to room, laughing as Luan chased after me, her freshly washed hair floating beside us like clouds, smelling like a sea breeze. I relived my mother's endless parties where people danced by the pool under beautiful lights and perfumes mixed in the air. My mother's ghost still seemed to be sitting in front of the mirror, powdering her hands with her river of hair cascading down her shoulders. While these thoughts distracted me, next to me in the truck, my mother held her stomach in her arms and followed her own thoughts. Were her emotions similar to mine? On the other side of her, Jamie showed no signs of understanding what was going on. He smiled at everyone, showing his 2 missing front teeth and watching the streets with thoughtless fascination.